to the cloud.
Brilliant. Okay, so that's good. So we just need to restart.
Hello all then.
Hello, the all.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
So we are now going back live on Facebook, which is just getting going. Welcome in, folks. This is the Beyond Book Show with me, Tony Higginson. Tonight is a very special night. And well, we could say they're all very special nights because they're a way of us getting together and sharing our love of words, of music, of poetry. But tonight is a special night because we are launching the fourth, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth collection of poetry by the very lovely, very wonderful Ian D. Hall. And he's just waved it up there for everyone, hasn't he?
I'll go with that. I'll put it up again then if you want.
Do please, do please. Is that the right-handed copy or the left-handed copy? Because I've got a left-handed copy, as I found out earlier, haven't I?
It's the right-handed copy, but bearing in mind that I'm naturally left-handed, it is a bit of a.
Oh, well, I've got your Ian. I've got your copy. I'll pop round so you can read from it in the right right order. We can't have you reading the wrong page, can we? That's Andy. That's Andy's song, isn't it? Well, the missing page.
Can I just explain something, by the way? If you've got the right-handed copy, remember that's the only one that works on UK mains voltages. So that's the one you've got to use. Okay.
It does, but it doesn't help when you've been so much of your time in Canada that it doesn't really matter anymore in the end.
Well, there you are then. 110 volts.
Which way?
Sorry?
What was that, Zoe?
How can you tell which is which way?
Well, let me see. Let me see if mine does mine look right or oh no, mine.
Yours looks the right. Yeah.
I must have two copies then. I must have two copies. That's it.
Ian,
you'll get twice the royalties without doing anything.
Excellent.
Read it in stereo.
Read it. Oh, hello, Alban. So no, and Karen, have you not got a copy told? Oh, look at that. Karen's got a copy over there as well.
Okay.
Hey, it's getting popular.
Love you greatly. Thank you, Karen.
That's.
Shall I join in?
Yeah, please do, Julie. Yeah.
Can you see mine?
This week.
No, keep seeing your thumb.
Yeah.
How you see this? We're already up to half the audience have got one, and we haven't even started. We just need to encourage the other half of the audience that they need a copy in, and you can retire.
The left-handed copy.
I'm sure that I've been tired for years.
So no, the idea tonight is Ian is we are expecting a few more people, so do bear with us on that. But Ian has very kindly agreed to read several pieces from the book. We've also discussed playing a little bit of new music based on Ian's words, and I think you even feature on one of them, Ian, don't you?
I think I feature on 4.
Oh no! You feature on two. We're playing tonight, don't you?
Oh, two of the ones tonight, but 4 in total, yeah. Yeah.
So for those that don't know, although I'm sure most of you do, because I think you've all been connected for a while, Ian has had a CD made by 16 wonderful people, Andy included. I think I sneak onto it. Julie, his mum, sneaks onto it. And we've all basically recorded one of Ian's poems, either as a poem or one of his monologues, or some people who are a bit cleverer than me and Julie, like Andy up there, have basically played guitars and keyboards and things as well. So it's rather wonderful, Ian, isn't it?
Well, I've said this quite a few times on Facebook and on social media over the period of time, but I am so incredibly grateful, first off, to Andy for putting it out there and then allowing me the time to cogitate it over and mull it over while I was thinking, I don't know what to do. And then obviously to yourself for doing all the really hard work and the background stuff and to Mark in the studio and to everybody really, because it's an honor more than anything. It just reminds me very much of, again, my mum will back me up on this, receiving my last report card from Bicester School and my English teacher writing upon there, I do love reading Ian's poetry, but he's going to have to learn that he will never make any money of it. And I received this in the post because I'd already left school by this point, and I got so angry that I walked the 2 miles back to school that afternoon, slammed it on a table, and I said a few swear words to her, as in, that's not really the point, but with a few more expletives on it. And bless her, she did send it back out to me, but so I kept it. But it's just one of those moments where you think, yeah, I get what you're saying, but nah, not going to happen, type of thing. You know, so I can hear voices.
I think it's Brian might have his phone on as well as his laptop. It's easy done when you first sign on. Yeah.
Do you know what? I get those. I mean, Tony and Andrew and my mum know this. I get very bad headaches and everything, but I get what's called exploding. Not exploding brain, but like an exploding noise syndrome at 4 o'clock in the morning or so. And you think you've heard something or somebody shouting, and it's not. It's because you're jolted awake by something like that. And it just reminds me of that.
Well, it's a bit subliminal, really, isn't it? It's a bit like me not being able to play the music a while ago, but we think we've sorted that problem. Yes. So, I mean, obviously, your key raison d'etre is to be a writer or an author, as we perhaps should now call you. Because obviously you've got 3 novels out, 2 more written that I know of, and you mutter about others. You mutter about them.
I've got 3 that's out. One that's coming out later this year, called Underneath, which is my second horror. And then for about 9 months, I couldn't write anything at all because I was having a massive situation with my next door neighbour, who allowed their children to scream at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that was dragging me down. And I couldn't write anything beyond a simple review for anybody because it was just taking me down a path I didn't enjoy. And as soon as they went, suddenly this new story came into being, and it is a sequel to Underneath, but it's this brand new story. And I managed to write it in just under 2.5 months or whatever it was.
That's about 70,000 words as well, isn't it?
It's 85,000 words. Yeah. Sorry, I was leaning in too close. 85,000 words on that one. And I've got, although you have told me to take a break for a few days to stop. I did.
Because,
but I reckon I've got about another 10 there that I can do. It just depends on whether the story flows.
I think that's such a good thing for you to say as a writer. If the story flows, then you are indeed a writer stroke an author. There's a lot of people, myself included really, that can write but can't do it often enough to make it work as something you do. And we've discussed this for your own enjoyment before anyone else's, because you and other people who write songs, write poetry, write novels, often say to people like me who inverted commas seldom, well, is it any good? Do you like it? Will other people like it? And sort of that's not the important question. It's you that's got to like it first. And once you like it, you'll make it good. You'll make it worthwhile for me, the reader.
I really did enjoy writing Ghost Apples. I must admit, my mum's asked me about this, about whether it's been cathartic on any of my nightmares, and it really hasn't been, unfortunately. But I really did enjoy writing it. I enjoyed immensely writing Underneath because I really allowed the darkness to seep out, as it were. And then in this next one, I think I've gone a little bit further again, and I've allowed a lot of anger from a previous time to infect and to worm its way through the narrative.
But isn't that a good way of letting out past bad feelings anyway, is to encapsulate them and put them inside a believable fiction?
Yeah.
And
you
then
can't do it in Mills and Boone.
Well, you can't. No, of course not. Not in Mills and Boone. You can't, Ian. No. But I mean, I'm fascinated by someone like yourself who writes in more than one different way. A lot of authors do write Mills and Boone or something.
Nothing wrong with them. I just used to take the mick out of my mum for decades.
Oh well,
but I don't read them anymore.
No. Oh no.
I'm a big girl now.
But no, it's horses for courses. I mean, some people just want nice, easy escapism. You know, they just want something that is like television with words on the page, really. But, you know, before you became a poet and an author, you were already writing an awful lot. You were reviewing plays, films, music, musicals, live performances on more than you were doing it 24/7 for about 10 years.
I was doing it at least 6 nights a week. And if I was doing a gig, say, for example, I'd gone to see Andrew and John and John Chatterton and a couple of others, I would make it my business to write about all 4. And however much I enjoyed doing that, I know how much damage psychologically and health-wise that was doing to me.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it was 2019, before the pandemic struck, I said I'm going to have to stop. I can't keep doing, because of my spinal issue anyway. I had to stop doing the nights out, and the plan was to keep doing the theatre, because I've always loved the theatre. Ever since I was a young boy, I loved going. You know, I used to go to the youth theatre in Bicester. I was a member of for 2 or 3 years,
and local live theatre genuinely needs somebody to voice it. You know, to get the word out there. You know, there are some very great reviewers though in Liverpool for of course there are.
And everybody like that, and Chris High, obviously. There are some fantastic people. So it's not I think the point that I'm saying is that by me having stepped back anyway, there's a lot more people out there still going. So that's cool as far as I'm concerned. As long as when this is all over, people return to the theatre, I'm happy.
Yeah, well, we've got to live in hope, haven't we? I think a lot of theatre companies are starting to want to return now. It's the business of whether half full's good enough, really, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
But that's not what tonight's about. Tonight's really a celebration of, you launching a 4th collection of poetry and other writing. I think it's important to get over to people. Although we perceive that you write quite a lot of poetry, there's more than poetry in this book, isn't there?
There is, and I've just, because I'm still not used to all this, I've just seen that Barry's there as well, and I haven't seen him before. So hello, Barry. My apologies, I haven't seen you there before.
I'm sorry for being late.
Oh, you only bang on time, mate.
No, it's cool. It's cool. There's it's weird because I can't. I've tried to do like a book of short stories, and they're not working for me as yet. But I do like writing the monologues. I was a big fan of.
You could say Stanley Holloway, or something like that.
No. Alan Bennett.
Oh yeah,
a huge fan of those particular performers of their period. And although I can't do what Alan Bennett does, I do like writing the short story from the single perspective. But I've carried that off in the novels as well, because, well, you know yourself, Tony, you've read Ghost Apples and you're reading the 2 other books at the moment.
I am indeed. Thank you kindly.
I tend to do a chapter from a person's perspective in it. So it does tend to work that way.
Ghost Apples. That was amazing.
Oh, Ghost Apples was amazing. Zoe, say that again if you would, so everyone can hear.
Ghost Apples, absolutely amazing. Really inspiring. It's inspired me to try and give horror writing a go, because I really enjoyed it.
That's very cool of you to say.
That's lovely to hear. Said to the world of Facebook, which is as good a world to read it to as any.
Thank you, Zoe. Oh, you're a father. Thank you.
That's a half-price book she's getting now.
Yeah.
Well, but we'll come back to the books in a minute. Always available by direct message to Ian or myself. I've got all of them up on Beyond Books, my website. So you go on there, click on the book you want. I see the order. I email or text or wander around to Ian's house, sit outside till he wakes up. No, he's always awake.
Oh, that lazy.
No, you're not. And Ian very kindly puts your name and any messages in. And while we've got them, we've got some nice postcards that are going out with the new one, Ian, haven't we?
Yeah. I did have one prepared. There we go. You might not be able to read it properly, but there it is.
Yeah, so, you get a little limited edition postcard as well.
It's nowhere near as good as what Andrew did with the idea of Darcy. So as probably most of you know, I'm a huge nut about Tony Hancock. There's a lot of it I can recite back to front and forwards and backwards. I love the guy. But me and Andrew were talking about it and realised how good the best book in the world that's never been completed is by Darcy Sato, this imaginary man thought up by Galton and Simpson. And so there you go. As Andrew's pointing out, it's a missing page. And so Andrew's done this wonderful piece with Mark Delaney's
Mark DeLacy.
Background, Mark DeLacy, Sebastian DeLacy. DeLacy. I'm going to stutter now. Thanks. His involvement on it. But I did this very short poem, which was it's just a very small one. The finest book I never read was by Darcy Sato. I will never read that book now because Darcy's missing, presumed dead. And it was just a throwaway line, just for something for Andrew, and it's just become that cardboard, the piece that we're given with the book, yeah.
Which is nice. I think it's nice when you get a bookmark or a postcard or something, with the book. It's a connection. It's a connection that's, just adds to it a bit, isn't it? Really. Anyway,
let's just Andrew's putting up. Sorry.
Oh, is he being?
He's being brilliant.
He's being Andrew.
It says buy Ian's books, and the other side said subliminal messages rock.
Oh, so it does. Fabulous. Anyway, so let's get back to doing something proper as we were meant to do. Ian, I think as we're here to talk about writing out of earshot, you should open it up at any page chosen by you, and read what's on the page. Or the one you prepared.
Again, as with all these things, I know you're a very forgiving lot. And you know that when I'm nervous, I stutter, which is why I don't really like doing live performances anymore. Because as Mum will tell you, I used to stutter quite a bit when I was pent up and frustrated and stuff like that. So, but this is the title poem from the new book, and it's called Writing Out of Earshot. Which was worse? The American Army assault weapon thrust in my face outside of the Pentagon in the dog days of August 2003. The soldier demanding to know what I was doing, or the snipes of the personal critic, the locust chirping in my ear and wondering how I spend my time, which is rightfully mine anyway. It came, perhaps, late in life, the urge to shut the door quietly, not with drama, not out of spite, but for my own peace of mind, to keep the noise down to a minimum and keep writing out of earshot, to express time in notes, pence, and the bond of suffering as you shake your head from side to side, an out of time metronome, clicking as the tongue biting down, desperate to fill the space and ask, what do I do behind closed doors? I think the young fellow with the rifle raised was less interested in my reasons as I remember him, sweating and angry, another person to emerge as a character as I continue writing out of earshot.
That's wonderful, mate. Really.
Impressive.
It's actually, the first part of that is actually based upon a real happening with my friend, my dear friend Carol in America. I'd gone over for a poetry symposium. I was invited to this poetry symposium in Washington. I came back with a trophy, which was nice, but I didn't come back with $100,000, which would have been nicer. But on the Sunday, Carol drove from her home, as was in Benny's Landing in New Jersey, all the way to Washington to see me do this particular thing, which I thought was outstanding. An American to drive all that way, it just doesn't compute. And on the Sunday, we went to look at the Pentagon. I'd been to Washington before, but I'd never seen the Pentagon from the outside. And we were driving around. I'm taking a couple of pictures, as you do, to say, "Oh, I've been to the Pentagon." And we suddenly get pulled over. And this American soldier thrust this evil-looking weapon up at us both. And Carol always says it was only because I spoke up in a very British accent at the time that stopped us from being killed. I'm so terribly sorry. Are we not allowed to take photographs to show our friends back home in England? And it was for about 5 minutes. It was quite scary. And not funny at all. But looking back upon it, I felt really, really sorry for the guy who was obviously under orders to shoot anybody who looked vaguely British.
Is that not just the constitution of certain countries now?
Yeah, it is. Oh, look, the British are coming. Yes.
Yeah. Oh no, we're not doing politics. This is about fun. No, this is about fun. This is about fun. So Andy and I loved the concept of the out of earshot that started all this off anyway. It was almost like impossible not to call the CD listening out of earshot, to go with writing out of earshot. And, it's a clever way of describing the inner mechanism of the creativity of yourself, really. I'll just ask Barry a quick question, because Barry likes his words too down there, don't you?
Oh, yes, indeed, yeah.
No, you do. Now,
I'm getting worried. I'm getting worried now, Tony.
No, don't be daft, mate. Don't be daft.
Especially now you've got your summer weight haircut on.
Oh, I know. Yeah, well, I needed to let my ears out, See,
very threatening.
No, as a writer yourself, when you were given this project back in February, I think it was, wasn't it? Did you find it easy to write something from someone else's perspective, from someone else's input? How did it compare to you just sitting there like you are now, thinking, right, I'm going to write something because I want to write it? How did it work for you?
It's a different process, really. When I first started writing, I started writing with somebody else's lyrics, so it's a different thing writing with somebody else's lyrics, because first of all you just have to feel the rhythm of what's being written, really, and then put something to it. In this particular case, because it was narration rather than even putting a tune to it, it was simply to find a suitable tempo for it, really. So it's a little bit like a job of work, really. It's I couldn't honestly say that I could have taken every piece in the book or the books and found something with them. So that was part of the selection process. Once you find something that you feel you've got the right sort of ambience for, and that's how it came from there. So like I say, I've done it before, writing to other people's lyrics. I have to say I haven't done it for about 15 years. So, but I enjoyed the process, so it's nice to have done it,
Aye. Well, I mean,
it was very kind of you.
Yeah. Leaving Ohio, that's your one, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah. And I think obviously you picked that one partly because you also are a bit of a fan of the same poets as Ian, aren't you?
Well, certainly, the poem in question was Nirvana by Charles Bukowski, but specifically read by Tom Waits, because I'm probably a bigger fan of Tom Waits than I am of Charles Bukowski. But in fact, I have to say that I wasn't as keen on the work until I heard Tom Waits do it, and it actually came to life for me. And I still think it's one of the finest piece of works that I've ever heard or read. So
well, we'll all be downloading it in an hour's time then, won't we?
Well, if you find like I say, if you find the Tom Waits version of it, it's like,
Alban's making notes.
Out of this world, you know.
Alban's got his pen. I could see him. I could see him.
Yeah.
Now, Ian,
I'm going to look it up.
Yep. No, I think we all. It's good. It's good that we get recommendations from each other, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Ian, the next piece you've chosen to read, I'm going to say celebrates you being 50, but I don't think celebrate's quite the right word, is it?
No.
Did you feel?
No, I didn't mind turning 50. I disliked. I disliked intensely turning 39, and I disliked intensely turning 17. I don't know why 17. It just felt like a crappy time. Pardon my French. But 39 I didn't enjoy at all. 40 was okay. And I thought I might have the same problem turning between 49 and 50, but it was okay. But it was more of the fact that I realised that at 50, I really hadn't done... I've done a lot, but I haven't done probably what I should have done. I enjoyed... Enjoyed's not the right word. I got an immense amount of pleasure by being able to backpack around America at the age that I went, putting my foot down and just going. And I wonder sometimes what would have happened if I'd not come back. You know, the plan was I wanted to see everything. But of course, the old spinal problem dictated, no, you can't stay in America all your life because you'll end up being bankrupt.
Yeah, that's the only problem, isn't it? The cost of healthcare, gosh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was more of a thought of, well, Ginsberg and all these wonderful people managed to do things that I never would have done. I would never have done them had I never listened to Ginsberg, for example, or Kerouac, or read Kerouac, for example, or anything really. And it was the death of a friend that brought the poem on. Just over a year ago now, actually. My friend Carlos, who was the first person I stayed with when I was in America, in his apartment, and he took me out on the first night, and we went down to the place with all the lights sent.
Times Square.
Times Square. And it took me down to Times Square, and we had a great laugh and beers. And it was the first time I'd had my eyes open to a certain way of living, and how different people are treated. And that was quite an eye opener. And when I'd heard that he died, it was just, well, what was the point? So I wrote this long lengthy repent and recant of prose to celebrate him and a couple of other people, but also to put Ginsberg in his place, as it were, with his howl. And it's funny, I was only thinking about this a couple of days ago because I've been playing an album a day to keep the brain going. And the Genesis, it was time for Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, and it's my favourite album of all time. There's just something completely brilliant about it. And it wasn't until I'm about halfway through listening to it, I suddenly thought, actually, I know why I like this album so much. It's because it's a 1970s anti-howl. It's the point of the lyrics and everything. It lulls you into this discordant world of New York 1970s compared to what Ginsberg was seeing in the 50s and 60s, all this bright hope and all this beauty, and muddled it up. And whereas Genesis decided to turn it on its head and give the world this very dark figure of all this graffiti and the crime. And you've only got to look at say, for example, the New York skyline and the programs that were out at the time, Starsky and Hutch and all that type of thing, and to realize how New York had gone over the hill and was sliding into its own cesspit of decay. And because of that, I loved New York when I was a boy. Anything that came up with New York on it, I wanted to see the decay.
Amazing city.
Yeah, and it's so the poem was basically about all those feelings that I got to 50 and I never expected to. And a friend of mine dying, really.
Well, so, I think what we thought is, it's quite a long piece, so rather than read all of it, which is quite a strain, when you haven't performed for a while anyway, could you do maybe 4 pages or so? Have you found a place in you that can bring it out so we can?
I can. Again, apologies if I stutter part the way through or anything like that.
No problem.
But it's called The Anxiety of Influence, and in brackets, the half-century anger and former loves. And it's for Carlos, Laura, and the woman with the red roses. If I don't sleep, I am more productive, going on for days and typing away and releasing the dark memories on snow blizzard paper. If I don't sleep, I ignore the pain in the back riddled with disease that clever men in white coats told me were all dancing wildly in my head. Demons echoing sentiments of a junior school teacher, white-haired old witch with knuckle-bent fingers who accused me of stealing a coat when someone had taken mine and leaving me to walk the miles in the pouring rain and hail of a summer download. I'm going to hell for having the bad manners to place upon my bedroom wall a rock poster which showed the devil being manipulated and puppet-style controlled thin threads of humanity, proving that man is capable of being more than the smiling demon who offers everything on a plate. If you allow yourself to suffer the anxiety of influence and spend your time in a fog of thoughts fit for post-war effect, brought to you by the sudden splurge of Americana that first came in the form of stockings for your maiden-grade aunts, all tan, never brown, a seam that ran down the back of their leg and which made them feel like a queen. As their bellies went hungry and they smoked to help calm their nerves, and slowly inside they rotted away to lung disease as they looked every inch the movie star before the inevitable autopsy scars echoed the death of Marilyn Monroe and the faded beauty of Judy Garland. If I don't sleep, I still see the first influence of Pac-Man, of the ghost-devouring yellow ball that filled up ours as we allowed our fingers to become nimble and our waistlines to grow static and weary, as we started to reject with cheer and good fortune all that was preserved from a Victorian era of keeping our mouths closed and our plates scraped clean, when burgers and deep-fried chips replaced the masquerade of overboiled seasonal veg and unfit meat drowned in a ladle of gravy that may as well have been a canoe. If I stay awake, I can still smell the demand of a teacher's insistence to clean the plate, the rubbery, tasteless gristle of joyless foreboding, and only tempered out and evened out by the Sunday morning pictures and archaic cartoons as the one egg piece and bacon cooked for a weekend treat washed away the disgust of semolina and bleached like cabbage to be shared with soldiers on another war in the making. And if I don't sleep, I see a greenish generation stream on its eventual decline. Our characteristics overblown yet spot on as we hang around our 50th year, influenced by all that was and remains unholy, raised by tasteless who adored the spectre of Victoria's glum down stance, neglected by our own stamp on time. We allowed ourselves to believe we were the children to whom evolution and revolution would flow like miles of rocking water, eroding the once pleasant green banks, tearing at the white cliffs of Dover, and blank eyes surrounded by a jaundiced complexion As we know now, we were ceremoniously given the taste of mediocrity and pleaded for more. Our stomachs and minds in unison crying out, "Please, sir, can we have some more flavour so our stomachs don't growl so loud, so the paper-thin walls don't rattle, so the windows don't shake? For that is the preserve of the never-ending wind we feared in our hearts as the nuclear burn threatened to cut us off in our prime, and which stopped me from sleeping sometimes. If I fell asleep, I would dream of you, the girl who had hair that mimicked unravelled shredded wheat, all corn blonde, and the splash of colour around your eyes that made you look deep and interesting. Or was that the youthful lust rearing its ugly head, and which would become infectious? An addiction of sweaty palms and immaturity when wearing a tie was seen as being a gentleman, and keeping a straight face when flicking through images on the top shelf as I waited till 7 o'clock so I could start my paper round and read all the news of the day, slowly collect black ink which would leave evidence on my shirt as I redressed hurriedly for school, so I could spend more time listening to a personal stereo that devoured batteries, but which gave me a reason to ignore the sound of adults as they donned their own ties picked out to match their mood. Always black, somber, upstanding, uptight, bad-tempered, one neurotic dance away from throwing in the towel and having an affair with a co-worker, or worse, drinking down the White Hart pub of a dinner time to banish the blues of precoital loss of blood and expectancy to which even a pair of nylon stockings could no longer hold the allure. For they never met the girl with the untangled shredded wheat hair and the disguise from a distance black eyeliner who hid her true love from the world as her father beat her religiously every Friday night, who crawled into the bed beside her on a Sunday morning as she administered forgiveness over a cuddle and a hot, stinking devil sneeze breath, as she held her nerve, swearing that one day he would lose more than his life, and she would smile. An unrepentant grin would erupt, and in her fantasy world she would slay the dragon at her feet, and then she told her coked-out boyfriend over Guinness and Chris at the arcade where Pac-Man stole time. She enjoyed slitting the throat of the man whilst knowing he was still alive at home when she awoke each Monday morning. Each one of us in that teenage-filled drama, the anxiety and futile gestures that defined us as Generation X was riddled with the doubt of influence, as we believed the world was ripe for rebellion that James Dean would only aspire to, and had he lived. But we were consumed, not just with anger, with fear, with hesitation, suspicion, dread, the falling of the bomb, the light of the flash that would signal the end. Alan, you were wrong. The genius of your generation was not just ripped out of its soul and destroyed wantonly. You inspired us to take a knife and cut through the umbilical cord, finding out that the latchkey kid would have serious repercussions in later life as we fell asleep, with eyes staring into the void of late-night television, of tragedies and cartoon substances to keep us awake, where we died a little each night, then rose blinking in the dark, wondering where exactly we were, and the soft crunch of reheated, irradiated, delicious hot poison would eat away at our stomachs, just because we could.
Wow.
Wow.
You, that is superb, Ian.
Amazing.
I loved it. You read that so well. You really did. That was amazing.
Sorry.
You'll need it. I dropped him a bottle of house gin off earlier, so that
it's
water.
It's water.
Yeah.
I never drank gin anyway. I don't.
No.
I never
You're missing out. Apparently, you're missing out. Gin's the in thing.
Gin's lovely.
Gin may be the in thing, but whiskey's the thing that stills the blood.
Whiskey. Yeah.
Now that's yes.
Can I say, listening to that, I've not read it yet, but listening to that, I can remember it's almost Ian's life story. I can relate to bits that happened earlier in life and later in life, and it's amazing because it brings it all back to reality again, and things that we have done. Not just Ian, but I can remember down at, he was on a unicycle in the playhouse down in Bicester. Can you imagine Ian on a unicycle?
Yeah.
Well, maybe 10 years ago.
It was to help him, but I couldn't.
No, it was more. I think it's more to do with the fact that, for example, the teacher who accused me of stealing a coat.
Yes, that was when you were in
Mrs.
school.
Junior school, Mrs. Evans, horrible woman, and I, like all teenage, not teenage, young boys, we finished school, absolutely lashing down with hail and everything outside of the school, but I badly needed to go to the toilet. And I wasn't going to wait till I got home. I just badly needed to go to the toilet. And by the time I'd gone and come back out again, everybody had gone. There was nobody there, and my coat had gone. I thought, oh, okay, somebody's taken my coat, but left that coat. It looks like my coat, but I can tell it's a girl's coat. So I'll tell you what I do. I don't care. I'm not going to get wet. I'm going to go home in that coat, and I'll bring it back in the morning. And I'm grateful that Miss Dix, my fourth-year teacher, saw what I did, told me that it was okay, and then stuck up for me the next day because Mrs. Evans went to town on me, calling me a thief, all sorts of words. And I said, well, what was I supposed to do? Somebody had taken my coat. Am I going to go home in the wet and I'm bringing the coat back? Oh, no, you left before everybody else. I was still in the toilet. But at the age of 8 or 9, you can't defend yourself against teachers like that. Because they don't want to know. You're wrong because you're a child, and I hated her for that reason alone. And she stuck in my memory for the rest of my life, and so it was only right that she, for all the wrong reasons, and it's only right that she takes a starring role in the poem.
Well, that's where she should be, isn't it? That's where she should be. Yeah. Just so Ian can get his breath back a little bit, because he's going to read for us again shortly. We've picked one of the tracks off the new album that you actually are recorded on, Ian. It is indeed your voice that starts off this recording, but it's by a local Liverpool combo called the Mono LPs. And they chose one of your pieces called Death by Bow. Which is very apt, as they've got a cellist amongst the
great and wonderful Vicky Much.
Vicky Reed, I believe she goes by now.
But when I first met her, she was Vicky Much, and I just fell in love with the way that she played her cello. I even called her the commander of the bow at one point in a review, and it seemed to stick.
Has she had a baby? Are they not due to have a baby about now? Have you heard anything?
I think it's due or at some point very, very soon. I don't know anything more than that.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll all get to know, won't we? So, folks, this for all of you, bar Andrew and Ian and I, this is the very first playing of the very wonderful Death by Bow, featuring Ian D. Hall on voice and the Mono LPs on music. Enjoy.
And there is no grand gesture of acknowledging the audience's applause as the cellist stands perfectly still, watching, waiting for the small unseen blazing wink that tells her to slowly, without mercy, break some hearts. It matters not at all what the cellist wears, for the assassin's bow gently pierces the skin and boils the blood of the victim as she slowly places the breath in play in which the body can bear no longer the beauty contained within. The long, drawn-out note, the gentle scream that drives me mad with passion, the short-picked string reverberating, the short, breathless motions to come to death by a wooden love. The assassin's movements wild, gestured, heart surgery wielding, as the theatre's lights slowly dim and focus the attention on the maniac you have paid to assassinate you. Remove you from this world and place you deep in a box you have chosen, in which I have already died. The light dims further. The pace slows, beautiful, erotic, calculated. The bow drawn back fully and taut, and back of the cello groaning under the pressure that wells up, as if the moment to let go is here, pulsating, screaming your name in notes unheard to the naked ear, except to you, and you ache for the release. The assassin had done her work. The movement finished and flesh-faced and stripped of all but strings. Her emotions in the kill subsiding, fading, dying. She bows her head, and in your death throes you applaud like a beast possessed. Your being infused in torment, and the spent but dead, alive but forgotten. The bow leaves no mark on your scarred heart as the assassin leaves exhausted, tied to a note that never came.
So, folks, hope you could hear that.
That was amazing.
It's rather good, isn't it? Rather good, isn't it? So Andy and I have set up a thing called a Bandcamp page. I'm sure Barry knows about these things too, being a music person himself. So the tracks are going to be up on the Bandcamp. You can have a listen. You can download them for £1, which is all proceeds are going to the Whitechapel Centre in Liverpool. The actual physical CD is ready to go to the actual CD manufacturer. I think Wednesday, Andy was saying. He's disappeared again, you know. Is he back? No, he's gone. Where is he? He'll be back. So the masters are going to the CD manufacturer on Wednesday, and the artwork is ready to be approved by everybody in the Messenger facility on the Earshot's page. Barry and others. Glance over your page. Make sure we've spelt your name right. Yours wasn't too bad, Barry, because it's.
I've sent you an email actually. So
I'll check on that as soon as we're done. No worries. But yeah, no. So we'll fiddle around with any changes needed by anyone's page, and then everything's ready to go. It takes about a week or so. So hopefully the end of next week, thereabouts. We will have physical CDs that can be ordered from my website, Beyond Books, or, message Ian, myself, or Andy, and, share the love, folks. We want everyone out there to know about it and order copies, because everyone who's on it deserves at least one listen, preferably more.
Yeah. I was just thinking with that, that's the last bit of that tune. If ever I'm fortunate enough to have one of the 2 detective tales that I've written so far filmed or anything, I think the ending of that last piece of music would suit it perfectly.
It would.
Steve and Vicky did something so great with that.
Yeah.
They made me sound intelligent, which is hard, a hard thing to do. So.
Well, you are intelligent. You're highly intelligent and caring and generous.
You are, mate. You are, mate. You are. You are.
It's just
definitely.
an act.
I'm
Now-
biased, but he is.
He is.
He's the best.
Now, Ian, one thing that goes on throughout this book is you've got a collection of pieces that link together, in effect, that use the months of the year, including a month that technically doesn't exist, that you sort of want to exist, or it wants to exist. You know, it's a wonderful premise that, you know, if we share the days out differently, different things can exist. Where did this idea come from?
Again, a lot of it comes from old poems as such. I've got a terrible itch on my knee. I'm so sorry. I'm a big fan of the Ovid. I'd read some of it before I went to university, but when I went to university, I was suddenly given this free rein to read whatever I want. I'm thinking, well, let's give that a go. And it was weird in a way, because all of a sudden a lot of the old Genesis tracks suddenly made a lot more sense, which thrilled me immensely. But in the Ovid, he transforms animals and metamorphosizes
Metamorphosis, yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because I can never say the word. It's up there with Solomonly, and I can't do that word either, which is why there's no word Solomonly in any of my poetry, because I can't say it without stuttering. And so I thought, well, what do I like? And it's the months of the year, and I do. Perhaps it's just the whimsical in me, or the old, I don't know, whatever. But it's the idea that each month does have its own personality. So I tried to capture that, and I got very much into old use of language while I was at university as well. So the like the Middle English and the
it's
Old
like Middle English and Anglo-Saxon almost, isn't it?
Yeah. And I got very heavily into that because I had a very good tutor for those lectures, and I followed it really quite interested. And so I thought, well, what can I do? So I thought, well, I'll look up the old months, and I never knew up until I started writing this that in Roman times there was no January and February. It was just basically winter. And so you had December, and then this period of non-existence up until like March came along. And so January suddenly became this like newborn child into the world, and February it's teenage, angry, impotent, desirable, lustful self who wants the extra day, or, as you know, the extra 2 or 3 days that everybody else has got. So I just carried it on from there. But then I got to April, and I thought, well, you can't, with the beauty of the world. Like, say, for example, I adore August. And August is a difficult month because it's always, if you look back in history, it always seems to be the time when wars are created. You know, for that reason. But then you got the subtle beauty of the harvest and everything. I grew up, as you know, I spent my teenage years in Bicester, but I also spent my summer holidays in Guernsey. So I saw a lot of the harvests going on and watching the farmers go through their business. And I thought, well, January, February, and March are definitely men, but all the rest of them are surely women, because they're much more kinder. So you have this dichotomy of King March having to realise that, well, you know, March is dead, but the Queen will live on, as it were. So it just seemed to work in a way. In my head.
It does work. No, it does work. It's you know, it's a lovely cycle, really, which a fair chunk of it is read by Debbie McGowan, your publisher, on the new CD.
Yeah. It was quite funny because she said, well, I don't know what to do. And I said, do whatever you want. And she said, well, I really do like Salmonast Extra Day. And I said, do it then. That's fine by me.
Yeah, but I mean,
and listen to it, and it's excellent what she's done with it.
Oh, it's superb!
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're just going to read one section for us, Ian, I think, aren't you?
Well, talking of kings and dead things, as it were, yes. If I can remember where it is,
page 69.
Thank you very much. Yes. So this is "The King is Dead, Long Live the Queen." It was once said in the time of Prince February, the shortest ruler with the meanest of dispositions, that Tiresias exposed the fallacy of droplets of Poseidon's tears, outnumbering the grains of sand felt between the blue eyes of the tired, and miserable and multiplied by the grains of sand felt beneath the hooves of the far-flung desert camel. February tossed this so-called joke aside as he wished he could have done to Tiresias with all that all-knowing twinkle in his eye. Absurd. February was prone to mutter loudly as he paced the halls in which his mother had bled as she gave birth to him in ignominy as the clock struck 12, as it always had, and the last day of a short but interesting life. Now, as he slept soundly of the wiser king, he marched headlong into solving the puzzle that had vexed and irritated him, displeased him and troubled him in equal insane manner. "I bring news for the royal personage," cried Tiresias. His eyes, sightless, but gifted in other talents, had eased the minds of all his queens before him, as they realized that life was indeed short, and that for the following year to come, to bother and to gratify, to annoy and adore all in the valley below, in the same measure as shown to the dying king this moment, that time must begin again. Time, the slowing of the clock, the inverted becoming clearer and more rational. The king must die for the year, and a champion queen to live. Tiresias stood at the head of the prone form of his new queen and marvelled at this sincere change in appearance, and hoped that fates allowed the transformation in mind from eager, desperate, maddening despot, full of cold annoyance and willing to drive hunger into the sternest of resolves, to kind magnificence. Red-haired April's blankets to sweep the ground as a delicate true nature, no longer hindered by thoughts of war, by mechanic, macho-type heroics, and let cousin Winter die along with her former life. Awake, dear Majesty. Let your eyes open on this day and see what could be once more. Let not your screaming, idolized and fable-like delivery into the world celebrated by gods and the sounds of exploding fireworks temper your thoughts, or cloud Queen April's judgment and compassion. Though you are newborn, you have an example to lead the people of your domain. Be gentle, Queen April. Be fruitful and no longer barren, for on this day you carry both your future doom and the hope that the cycle begins as it must, with the birth of your cold-hearted child, Prince January. The eyelids of the new queen fluttered. The waking coma ended as it always must. And Tiresias smiled, his job complete for another year. Awake, Queen April. See your realm and command winter banished, and from your domain take your place, O woman reborn, for mad King March is dead, and you have 9 months to live.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
It's seriously good, that, isn't it? Hopefully everyone gets it, which is the passing of time and the cycle of life and everything, which just weaves its way through the whole encompassing piece, doesn't it?
Well, it's also okay. Can you be a fan of a fabled person or a real person made mythologized? But Tiresias as a character, Alban will probably set me right if I'm wrong, but I believe him to be the only person who appears in both the Ovid and in the Odyssey.
Odyssey.
Yeah, it's the only person to appear in both Roman and Greek literature like that. And the story of him coming to be, it just blows me away, of his trial by Juno and everything. So you have to encapsulate the subtle gender differences between January and February and March to the rest of the year.
When talking of the passing of the seasons, I'm a bit like yourself, really. I'm quite lucky that I live in Crosby, so I can get down to the beach and observe what the seagulls do to the Iron Men, which brings us to your next piece, which is, I think, the first thing you and John Chatterton wrote together. Is that right, Ian?
Yeah, I'd already written the words about a year or two beforehand, and they were in the Black Book.
That's about 4 years ago,
Probably 5 years ago now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it must be 5 years ago. So I wrote that, and then somebody called Tony said to us, why don't you two get together and do a performance, because there's going to be a gig over the road in your park close to you, and put some music to that. And so John came round on 2 or 3 occasions, and we just had a blast. This is in the days when I allowed people in the house.
We'll do soon. I mean, you will do soon. You're allowed to soon.
Anymore. And then we had a blast, and it went down really well. You know,
there was a lot of people. There was a lot of people at that gig, Ian. There must have been 400 or 500 people, and they all stayed. Put it that way.
Yeah. And it worked, and I was so grateful to. I will remain grateful to John for the rest of my life for what he did with that particular piece of music. Well, I mean, 3 pieces.
I was going to say, he's a wonderful person to work with, I'm sure. So you and John have recorded 3 pieces for the new CD. Obviously, we don't want to give everything away in one go, so we are just going to play Seagull versus the Iron Man.
I'm as deaf as the Iron Men I watch far from the squall, but they see so much more than I do. Even through the gloom and dark of both ends of the day, that raven black sky is pitted with the most beautiful fire-stained red and blistering orange, as if a far-off volcano had burst into life and sent its majestic, deadly plumage as far as the Crosby coastline. High above the Iron Men, seagulls battle bravely. Their squawking, bickering, distasteful arguing is unheard as they struggle in sheer vain to stay aloft in the winter sky. I give up the struggle to hear anything above the wind battering my leather coat, and have long since discarded the use of its fellow trilby, not wishing to add a moment of comedy to others' otherwise blustery day. I came here to let air into my stale and feeble-feeling lungs, to let the bitterness of the night before filter away, and take flight back towards where the volcano exploded. Not as audible as Krakatoa, but in my mind still smashing, hopeless serenity apart. The image of Iron Men reminds me that even in the darkest gloom, to stand firm against the rising tide of uncalled for derision and pain. Though I rust as quickly as the men on the shoreline, their soulless, blank, staring eyes know not time, nor the trouble of seagulls that relieve themselves from above their heads and add to the complexity of colours surrounding the wind that rises. The whiteness of the small edition runs deep and slides downwards, Life is at times like watching an Iron Man on Crosby Beach, who is able to take all that nature throws at him.
Wonderful. Hopefully you all like that. Oh, I can see people nodding, smiling even. This is nice to see. Isn't it nice when people smile? I mean, it does make the world a better place, doesn't it? But no, he's a wonderful supporter, John, isn't he? I mean, he provided the artwork of your ugly mug, as you might call it, that's adorning the front cover of the album, and I've subtly hidden it behind the words on a few pages. Don't know if you've seen my latest attempt at art.
I haven't, because I've been on the phone to an organisation most of the days. You know.
Well, we'll let you off. But I think Barry, Julian, and Andy might have seen it. I've put your face behind some of the pictures and words on some of the pages. It's quite a nice effect, isn't it? Barry, does it look all right? You've seen it, haven't you?
It looks terrific.
It does, doesn't it? It's a good effect, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, yeah.
It hides them in plain sight, doesn't it?
I was just about to say it's a good place to put me. It's behind everything.
Yeah. No, well, I think
no, not at all. No, you should be up front.
But no, there is something about you being behind everything. Well, Andy should say something at this juncture, I think. You're on mute, Andy. We can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hold on, there. No Hiding in Plain Sight is a great title for a book. You know, but I mean, I do think that actually what we wanted was we wanted Ian to be front and center. You know, a lot of people contributed to, which tumultuous thanks. But if you think about it, the one person about this, it's meant to reflect the influences, the words, and the general sort of use of language that comes from Ian D. Hall.
Indeed. No, well said, Andy. Well said. But just going back to young John Chatterton, or the member of the Rolling Stones that doesn't tour with them anymore, as I always think, because he's got better things to do. Yeah. There's a piece in the book called The Gunslinger, which sort of feels like it could be about John. I don't know. Is it about John?
No, not at all. Not at all. No. Basically, that poem came out because I wanted to say thank you to John, and he done this. I heard this bit of music that he put online, and I thought, gosh, that doesn't half. There's like a vibe of. I know he said Blazing Saddles there, and I don't mean it disrespectfully, because I adore Mel Brooks. You know, one of the great filmmakers of our time. But it was just that the idea of this whole group of people sitting around a fire telling a story. And I could imagine John playing the music for each particular person around that fire. And I used to be a fan originally of Westerns. And then when I got to about 12, they bored me rigid. Because I grew up a bit, and I saw the desperation in the dichotomy in how the Native Americans were treated so poorly by the filmmakers, and it wasn't until about a decade ago when I was going to the cinema an awful lot, and they brought out these really wonderful, proper, good, well told Western stories again. And they were really, really cool. And I fell back in with that sort of idealism of the lonely traveller going. And he did this particular bit of music, and I thought, well, there's the Ballad of a Gunslinger. So I wrote, strangely enough for me, I wrote a rhyming poem for him. And he did tell me he liked it, so I guess it can't have been too bad.
You're going to have to read it now, Ian.
I know I'm going to have to. I was waiting for Tony to say something, but he's just there nodding asleep, you see. So
No. My son was just texting me. I was having a secondary conversation My son's girlfriend has just had her tonsils taken out.
Oh, right.
And I've not met her. You know, as in we've had a whole year of not meeting people, haven't we? Yeah. And he said Beth wants to come and meet you and Grandad. And I said, well, she if it's okay with you, I'll chat with Grandad. I'm sure it'll be fine. And I thought, but what can she eat? You know, if you just had your tonsils out, you're a bit limited, aren't you?
Ice cream.
Yeah, so I'm just checking with him what she can eat, because obviously I'll have to pop out to Aldi or Tesco and Asda or Iceland or somewhere and get something for her, won't I?
Yogurt.
You will. So while you're texting, then do you want me to quickly?
I am fully back with you, Ian. I apologise for the lack of attention.
It's you wouldn't be the first, and you won't be the last, mate.
Oh, indeed.
Okay. So, shouting from outside. That was loud. Right. Somewhere in the desert lies a lonely man. The rattling of snakes and the whispering sand, his only escape from the heat that shakes his shooting hand. Death is forever by his side, as grizzled as a companion can be, with no end to the slaughter that came at the Battle of Wounded Knee. The gunslinger, once the hero in this game, now kills for money and peace in his brain, his mind to savagery when he thinks of the men he has slain. Of the warrior, no longer death is his stranger, undoing all that was just. The gunslinger in the shadows, making breathing men eat dust. Somewhere in the desert lies a lonely man tonight, his guitar battered, his pistol clean, and death within his sight. One day, the pistol will draw a moment too late. Till that day, he rides the desert in search of violent fate. Here ends the lesson of the gunslinger, the man who will kill for death. Keep looking behind your back, my son. Keep a mind on that desert breath.
Wonderful stuff. That's really good.
I don't normally rhyme. I don't like being constricted by rhyme. I'm very much a Ginsberg devotee for that, you know, and Kerouac. I don't. But there was something about the music that seemed to insist that I had to.
And it worked really, really well. But I know what you mean about rhyming. It can be an absolute total nightmare. And yet that's brilliantly.
I just find it so. Sorry, I missed that. Say again.
Sorry, dissonance sometimes works better with the subject matter.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, for example, I mean, a friend of ours wrote a song called Life of an Orange. And to be honest, he couldn't think of anything to rhyme with orange, and nobody can. But that's the reason why he wrote the song. You know, John Hall was.
Yes.
Also on the Earshot CD. But I like it. I like it very much because it builds up an image in your head of who you expect to see. The problem is, now I'm thinking of John Chatterton. I can't get that out of my head.
Is he an assassin that we've never found out about, do you think?
Oh, yeah.
I think assassin.
I think if John's an assassin, then I can't think of a better person to take my life.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, brilliant. Anyway, folks, we're going to play one more song before we finish, which is, now here's the weird thing. When all these people like Barry and Andy and everyone were offered the chance, would you like to contribute to this CD? Obviously, they all said yes, which was brilliant. It made asking people so easy. People just said, oh, yeah, that sounds good. We'll do it. 3 of them chose the same song, Ian.
They did, yeah.
Oh, sorry, the same poem to base their song on. Yeah. So we had this wonderful moment where the people kept emailing in what they were doing, and poor Mark, who's sort of made sure they all sound the same volume, mixing and balancing or something like that. It's called. He got mighty confused because there were 3 or 4 people all emailing in saying facial expressions. One of whom is a person but performs under another name. So he was talking to someone called Mark Luca, who is a friend of yours, and will come up when when you're performing in real person, won't he?
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden there's also a song by an imaginary group called the Florida Dentists. Plus, Two Black Sheep did a version of Facial Expressions, and John Chatterton put music to it, and then you did a reading of it. So poor Mark, he had a mega mix at one time. I think he thought he had eight different tracks, trying to merge them into one song called Facial Expressions. Yeah.
I mean, I was so happy because I know it's a particular favourite of both Judith and my mum's. Facial expression. It is a very simple poem, but it was just like a lot of things. The poem just came out of nowhere, and I can't even remember where I was, to be honest. Well,
you wrote it quite a long time ago. I asked you to delve into your memory, and it's one of your earliest performed stroke published pieces, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Could it be even nearly 10 years old? Is it possible?
I think I wrote it not long after I moved to Liverpool, and so that would be 2004. So about 2004, 2005.
So it is,
I think I wrote it.
Almost the essence of you starting out as a poet, almost.
Yeah.
Which is quite apt. It ended up being such a popular choice, you know, to be on the album, really. Anyway,
I'm pleased that it did, to be honest with you, because there was, you know, it is a nice piece, and you know how disparaging I am about everything I do, but it was just more of a fact that people actually seem to like it, and I thought, well, okay, who am I to argue with you?
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to let everyone, you know, pass on their congratulations to you in whatever way they see fit. And I think we should really start with Julie, with your lovely mum. So Julie, feel free to say something now.
Say something. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody that's been there this evening to support Ian. It's been amazing, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. And also, I would like to thank yourself, Andrew, and Mark, who I had the pleasure of meeting. He actually came all the way down from Liverpool to see me to record a 34-second opening. And it was an amazing experience, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I'm hoping when we can start travelling again to be able to come up and see everybody in Liverpool so that I could thank them personally. John, Tony, Andrew, Mark, you're an amazing group of people, and all Ian's friends, and I'm so pleased that he's got so much support and so much love coming from everybody.
Oh, lovely, Julie. Well, no, I think we're all itching to be able to be in the same place, and, you know, people perform. I mean, you know, I don't know if Barry's done any external gigs. I know Andy's been rehearsing. Have you done anything yet, Barry? Have you, other than the radio slot you did for me a couple of weeks ago, have you done anything anywhere yet?
No, not recently. No. Everything that I'm supposed to be going to a festival this weekend, but we'll see what happens there. But it's all looking a bit doubtful for the time being. I
know it's a bit never ending, isn't it? I think a lot of people were starting to feel that there was some semblance of, I'll use the word safety, in being outdoors and keeping a, you know, 5-6 foot away from each other, and, you know, someone could perform, but it all seems to be up in the air again, doesn't it, really?
Well, I know a lot of people are out playing, you know, which I'm not quite sure how that fits in with the rules, but I know that Barry Brearcliffe, for instance, has been out playing, and then he's just come down with COVID, so I don't think it's as safe as people think, you know. So.
Absolutely not.
That's it. Micah, just you can unmute yourself. You've been smiling away up there, which is lovely to see. Hopefully things are okay over in the Netherlands.
We're doing, I think COVID-wise, we're doing slightly more okay than the UK. We are supposed to be opening up the 30th of June. And today they announced it will be put forward to the 22nd of June. So, which means that's in a weekend instead of in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
But they're kind of scared because people are not taking the basic rules for granted anymore. So we have 1.5 meter distance, wear your face mask in public places. So yeah, I'm still waiting for my second shot of Pfizer. And then I have to wait at least 2 weeks to be, well, as much protected as I can. So
yeah. I mean, I know I don't look old enough, but I've had both my jabs.
Well, I mean, the process in the Netherlands, it's been terrible. So
really, oh
yeah, they did it in age groups, and they put certain groups up front. So health workers or people with severe diseases. And there's also a group which gets their flu vaccination yearly, which I belong to. And supposedly they would do that group at the beginning of March, but they postponed it. So only at the beginning of May, I was able to make an appointment. And it's approximately a little 3 weeks wait until you will have your first shot after being able making the appointment.
Yeah, I think we've just got to take our turn and hopefully be as patient as we can be, because we'd all really have got to wait the same amount of time. It's just the order that some of us get.
At birth year 1994 today, which are allowed to make their appointments.
Yeah. But I think we're probably about the same, aren't we? It's people of about 30 at the moment, isn't it? That are getting done over here. Yeah. Well, hopefully it must be a bit of a treat for you to see Ian and hear him perform, because it's probably a couple of years since you've seen him, I would imagine, isn't it?
I think the last time we saw each other was when I went to Ireland on holiday, because Ian's health deteriorated from that point on, so he wasn't able to. No. We've seen each other after that at a Rush concert in London.
We did. Yes, cracking gig.
Oh
yeah,
absolutely superb gig.
Oh yeah, Rush are. Yeah. So are you hoping when this all settles that you'd be able to get over to Liverpool again? Would you be?
If everything goes well, I will be going to the UK at the end of November to London.
Yeah.
To see a certain band. Ian will know which.
Oh, Marillion, maybe?
Yeah, they cancelled all the mainland Europe gigs. Well, not the band itself, but all the promoters said, we're not doing it this year, so everything is postponed another year. But I already had tickets for the London gig, so I'll definitely
happen.
London gig now.
Well, I mean, we can't fully disclose this yet, but Andy and I did go and see a theatre in Liverpool, didn't we? And we've had the first meeting about trying to put everybody on stage, shall we say? So we'll be looking into that this week, Andy, won't we? Really? So as soon as we know, we can book a theatre, book Barry and Ian and everyone else who's contributed. Make sure they're all free on the same night. That's the hard bit. I mean,
I'm free every night now. It's not like I'm going anywhere, is it?
Yeah, but I mean, it can't be on a Monday because Barry will be down at the Cavern, and it can't be on a Sunday because Andrew will be praying again or something. So we're probably only left with Wednesdays that everyone can meet.
I mean, the one thing about it is I can't reveal any names here, but we'd actually been to the Whitechapel Centre and we decided to pop along. And I said, is that where I think it is? And we went in the car a short distance and had chats. It turned out the guy who ran the venue is one of our friends. So that was quite a nice coincidence. I can't mention where it was, but I think maybe I've given away far too much already. But it will happen.
It will happen. Now
things are coming on here slowly.
Yeah.
With a limited amount of people, and after the ease on the 22nd of June, there are more people allowed in, and we're allowed into movie theaters as well. So it's slowly going, but
we're about the same, aren't we? Really? Yeah. So Karen over in sunny Yorkshire, as she now calls it, which look, have you got a rare signed copy, or is yours?
No, I've got a signed copy.
Has it got your name in, or have we managed to send you someone else's?
No, it's got my name in it.
Thank you, Karen.
So you'll be raving about it to everybody.
I've already read part of it, and it's excellent. I have to say, it's excellent writing.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, Thank you. So no, it's just a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Karen.
Couple of weeks, and then we can start pushing, the publicity for the music on, big time, really, which is really what we're all dying to do. Because I mean, it seems a long time ago, February, when it was Ian's 50th. Everyone said, "Yeah, I'll record something," and then off they went into their dusty bedrooms and started emailing in things they were doing, which is quite miraculous, really, that people can work at a distance and it can all come together and become something.
Well, you saying that, Tony, can I just retell you something that's just been said to me online?
Oh, go on.
That my dear pal Carol, who I mentioned earlier.
Oh, is she watching us on Facebook?
She was watching it as well as my son apparently was, but Carol was watching it, and she said, remarkably happy to report that the post just delivered. Writing out of Earshot's just arrived. Timing is everything.
How cool is that? She lives in New York, She's all
no, South Carolina.
South Carolina, not yeah. It's just
but I met her when I was traveling around America, and it was just outside of a place called Media, just outside of Philadelphia at the time, and I'd spent 9 hours on a bus traveling from Pittsburgh to Philly.
Isn't that a Simon and Garfunkel song?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to do all that, and I sat down in this bar on the hotel, and there's this big group of Americans in there, and I just sat there and I ordered a Guinness, and I looked at, and they drink it so damn cold. This was before I gave up drinking. They drink it so damn cold, and I was looking at it with disgust. And she came over and she spoke to me, and we've known each other for now nearly 30 years, and she great pal, as you all are, but you know what I mean. It's
and
just one of those things where...
Barry's got a Guinness t-shirt on.
Yeah, I have, yeah. I can show you can I show you the
Excellent.
back?
Yeah, please do. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we like that.
Excellent.
Have you been doing open mics for St. Patrick's Day in all the bars in Liverpool at some point then?
Well, this funnily enough, I was paid this for doing a gig in 1998. This was my payment with a silly hat and a t-shirt, for doing Patrick's Night. I found it in the bottom of my t-shirt drawer this morning, so I thought I'd give it a bit of a run out.
Is that the Irish Centre up at the top of Brownlow Hill type place?
No, I think it was the Ship Inn in Haskane.
Yeah. That's where David, I think he's moored his longboat at the moment, hasn't he? His canal boat.
David Nixon.
Dave Nixon here. He's moored up there at the Ship Inn. He goes around all these pubs by boat. It's quite clever, really. I bet he never gets dumped for speeding.
It was a scene of a folk club in the 90s that I used to frequent. So
yeah. There's too few of them around now, aren't there, really? Anyway, listen, I'm going to play a version of Facial Expressions, and then Brian and Dave and Alban and Zoe can pass on their congratulations to Ian. But I think it'd probably be nice. This is the Florida Dentists, or the Florida Dentists, as we now call them.
The Florida, yes. Now, it came out of nowhere, this, and it just tickled me that Mark did it.
So this is Mark Luca under his alter ego, the Florida Dentists, because he's not a dentist and he's never been to Florida, apparently. It's a bit, him and John Hall need to get together.
Yeah.
In a tear, a lifetime's sadness is shown. In a tear, all manner of images are exposed. In a tear, life can end. In a tear, broken hearts mend. In a smile, friends become lovers. In a smile, true feelings uncover. In a smile, people fall for strangers. In a smile, we face the greatest dangers. In a laugh, heroes stand tall. In a laugh, comedians hear the audience call. In a laugh, there is unity in a nation. In a laugh lies love's greatest potion. In a kiss, lovers unite as one. In a kiss, romanced by the setting sun. In a kiss, children are made. In all emotions, our souls are saved.
Isn't that just such a clever way of doing something?
It really is.
Yeah. What did you think, Barry? First time you'll have heard that, isn't it?
Yeah, very interesting.
Isn't it?
It reminded me of the Cadbury's, not the Cadbury's, the Smash advert.
Yes, very, very well put. Yes.
Cut us with their metal knives.
And boiled them for 20 odd minutes.
It's quite haunting, actually. I've listened to it about four or five times now, and each time I listen to it, I hear the lyrics clearer. It's you get used to that metallic synthesized sound. What does he sound like in real life, Ian? Has he got a really bad accent?
I would like to say he's got a Nottinghamshire accent, but
yeah.
I've only ever met 2 or 3 people from Nottingham, so I can't.
Well, they talk through their nose, Malcolm, don't they?
No, that's more Leicester.
Oh, is it? Yeah. I thought it was there was an advert, wasn't there? For
it was, yeah. It was one day return to Dottingham.
Please, yeah. There we have it. Yes, yeah. But hopefully, playing those tracks tonight's whetted everyone's appetites for making sure you all order at least one copy to give away and want to keep yourselves. Complimentary copies for all people who contributed to the making of, and they just need to recommend one other person buy it, and we're sorted then, you see. Anyway, Alban hiding, smiling in the corner with his tangerine glow.
Absolutely. I really enjoy that, Ian. Thanks very much. I mean, it goes really well with the music. But I thought that the poetry was very powerful. It's sort of confessional and autobiographical, and yet universal as well, because I think we've all got sort of memories of childhood where I remember the girl, Frances Rogers, who put a crayon up her nose and said, "I did it." I still haven't forgiven her. I was in primary school. But also it's overlaid with all that culture, whether it's the classicism or the westerns or the Ginsberg. No, it was fascinating stuff, Ian. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And coming from yourself, that really does mean a lot. So thank you.
No, super. Brian, the artist, Brian, you need to unmute, young sir.
Brian, you need to unmute. Can't hear you.
That's it.
How's that? That better?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, that reminded me then of something at school when you just said that. And I'd just been in the toilet. It was an outside toilet. And this guy come in, he's one of my schoolmates, and he said, "Do you want a cigarette?" And I went, "I don't smoke." He said, "Oh, go on, Gibbo, have a cigarette." And I said, "I don't smoke." And then just as he was offering me, the junior headmaster come round behind the back of him. Right, and he turned and seen him, but I was flanked by what he could see. And he threw this box of cigarettes at me. He threw this packet of cigarettes at me. And I just caught them. And when he stepped aside, I had the cigarette in my hand. And the headmaster said, "What are you doing with those cigarettes?" I said, like that. And then my mate, John Askew, he went in the toilet and he shut the door. And the headmaster shouted, "Get out here, come out here now." And I won't be a minute, sir, I won't be a minute, sir. He said, "Get out the toilet now." And he said, "I haven't got a minute, sir," like that. And eventually he come out. And the teacher pushed him aside, went in, stood on the toilet seat and put his hand in the cistern. And he took out a big box of cigarettes, soaking wet, right? And then he got my ear, his ear, and he dragged us across the schoolyard. Right? It's just unbelievable. And I'd done nothing. And he said, "Stand outside the headmaster's study." The senior headmaster, who was Mr. Pagandam, right? Mr. Pagandam, I had found a 10 shilling note on the a 10 pound note on the floor years before. 10 shilling note. I think it was 10 or something like that. And I handed it in to this Mr. Pagandam. Then another time I handed in a half a crown, and I knocked on it and I gave him a half a crown. So when Mr. Pagandam came in, he come out of his office and he said, "Brian, come on in. Tell me what happened." So I told him exactly what I just told you. And he said, "Right, stand there." He said, "Now just listen to the lies that this fella's going to come out with." And John Askew came in and he stood there and he said, "What happened?" He said, "Why did you have a cigarette?" He said, "Well, to be honest with you, sir," he said, I was coming to school. I was a bit late." He said, "And this wagon went past and this box fell off. And I picked the box up and I tried to shout that." And the headmaster said, "Right, I'll give you another chance to tell me the truth." So he said, "Oh, sorry, sir. He said, "I had to go home for my dinner." He said, "And my brother was there." And he said, "When you've had your dinner," he said, "I want you to go and get some cigarettes for me from the shop." And I said, "I can't do that. I'm only a little boy." And he said, "I don't care." And he made me, sir. He made me get the cigarette. Well, it was just, I'm cutting the story short. And the headmaster just said, "Okay, I'll give you 2 chances and you've lied to me twice." He said, "Stand there." And then he turned around and the headmaster, I remember him winking at me. He went like that to me. Then he went to his cupboard on the wall, a big glass cupboard, and he took this cane out and he went like that with the cane. And he turned around to me and he winked again. And he said to him, "Bend over me," and that was it. I'll never forgot it. He gave him 6 on his hands and 6 on his backside, and I was there.
It hurts as well, doesn't it?
Well, he missed his back. He missed his backside twice, and he hit his back.
Oh,
I'll never forget it. It's imprinted in my brain.
Yeah,
and that's just what Ian's poetry reminded me about before.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, this is the magic of how evocative and poetry is, that simple words can tell a huge story, can't they? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it just brought it back to mind.
And Wordsworth, David Holden, Mr. Wordsworth, as we now call him.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, that last one of Ian's poems, then with the bass in. I just love that one.
Yeah. No, it's super. Yeah, no, but David, you're on mute, young sir. You have to unmute. David has been soaking up the Wordsworth trail for the last 4 or 5 days. He's been sharing his exploits of plucking daffodils and going to too many pubs.
Well, it's evidence that will probably get used against me in time, no doubt. I just want to say to Ian, I mean, I'm not great with words, I'll admit, but it's great to meet another Rush fan for a start off. Which concert was it you were going to see?
It was Micah would probably remind me of this if I get it wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was the last one, the Clockwork Angels.
Clockwork Angels, yeah.
Down at the London the O2 place. and I'd only
Last
seen them
time
once
they
before.
came to Europe to perform.
That's the one, yeah. And I'd only seen them once before that, and that was at Birmingham when I was doing reviews for the Birmingham Mail. And it was really weird, that one, because I got asked to review Roger Hodgson the one night, and I was at the station waiting to go back to Liverpool, and I get a text from my old mate Andy Coleman to say, that was such a good review. Do you want to do Rush tonight? Because I can't do it. Are you kidding me? Of course I'll do Rush tonight. I'll stay another night. Judith will be fine. No problem. I can't do that one. So it was cool, but
I'm quiet.
It was the London gig. It was lovely, superb.
All right, this is the Manchester one for me for the same tour. But I also want to thank you for some of the readings you've done tonight, because they really brought back memories of school for me. I mean, I remember a teacher in my secondary school, and back when I was a kid, was more into like drawing and that sort of thing. And the art teacher kept saying to me again and again, it looks too much like a cartoon off of like children. It doesn't look like, Van Gogh or anything else. Like, you've got to do better. And it just put me down to the point where I was like, will I ever be able to get through this, for GCSE? But when I got the grade C, I felt like I'd won almost.
Yeah.
And also with the reading based on your trip to New York, one thing I loved about some of the readings you did was it was just how diverse it was. Because some novelists, some artists in all sorts of media, they tend to just stick to a comfort zone. And yours is just such a wide range. It's so inspirational. I mean, to go both light, shade, and also something which I've always been a little bit reluctant to do, to use personal experience to influence it. So thank you for that tonight, for being very cathartic.
It's an absolute pleasure, David. Thank you so much. From my heart, thank you. That was pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and Zoe, who was first to join, we haven't left you to last on purpose. Anything you'd like to, say to or for or from Ian?
You're so inspiring. You inspire me every day. I absolutely love your work. And if I could give you a big hug right now, I would. So I'm going to send you a virtual one.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you, mate.
No, it's nice when people can actually say something nice to someone, isn't it? I mean, I think with the hugging is the one thing we haven't been able to do. I mean, you haven't seen your mum for over a year, have you, Ian? I mean,
I last saw my mum, I think it was in November 2019.
Which is
I haven't seen my kids since September 2019, and I haven't seen my dad since September 2019.
It's just wrong, isn't it? Really,
it really is.
In fact, I've seen, apart from the bin men.
Oh yeah, we've seen that.
I've got a very good first name terms with the bin men of late. They're very cool because I'm the only one in the street who tips them at Christmas. I've seen you. I've seen Andrew. I've seen my next door neighbour to the left and 2 doors up, and I had a running battle for 9 months with the next door neighbour to my right. And that's pretty much all I've seen for all.
And the delivery man from Iceland.
And the delivery man from Iceland. But thankfully, I've had Lady Pooh. I've had Lady Pooh to keep me as sane as I can be for the last year or so.
Yeah. And we are nearly done now. So, thank you from me to everyone for joining in tonight. Also for the lovely people who are watching it on Facebook, as they always do. Dave, what were you going to just add in?
Well, I was also going to thank both Andrew, Barry, and yourself as well for completing the project, and also Mark, who's obviously not here, for completing the CDs with all the songs on. I'm sure they'll sound absolutely beautiful when we hear them all together. But also to thank you, Tony, for hosting these Zoom calls, because they've at least enabled me to keep in touch with people who in this current time would never have been able to. And it's been great meeting all sorts of people, including Ian, like you, Zoe, and all sorts, So thank you very much for that.
Most welcome. I mean, they've become a pleasure, haven't they, really? And, we have 2 hours on a Monday night that just takes the stress away, doesn't it? Really.
It really does. You can't beat friendship.
Yeah. So it's a great way of being able to chat, and if we play a bit of music, read a bit of poetry to each other, it's a good thing, isn't it? Andy, who's come and gone and is quiet again.
No, sorry, I had to get a drink of water. I had a bit of cough.
Oh, don't start coughing. We won't be able to see you if you start coughing.
Oh, no. I'm fine now. Sorry, what were you going to say, Tony? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say we'll let you round things off, really.
Well, I've known Ian now for about 4.5 years, and we met at HCR in Runcorn, didn't we? When we were doing the radio program on Sunday. And I remember it was, I had my friend Judith with me. It was a laugh. It was an absolute blast to do it. And you actually extended the program to get everything in. If I remember right, that was my fault probably. But if I can say something, it's always been a pleasure. I think the one thing I appreciate about Ian is these weren't merely sort of poems in the sense of moon, June, rain in Spain. These were actually things which were articulated thoughts and memories, and also he wasn't afraid to say about the negative as well as the positive things. Some people are very reluctant to do this. It was also the fact as well that there was a mutual appreciation. I mean, you meet people who are creatives like, Barry, who, if you're judging by the sausage song, you never hear anything else to do. The Wind in the Willow stuff is absolutely brilliant. And then you've got people like Brian and the poems he writes, and Karen and Alvin and some of the things that they display. And as well as Zoe and Marie, sorry, I can't pronounce your name, Maiki. The fact that there's so much support and love about what you do. And there are times when I've seen you on maybe days when things haven't been so good, Ian. I know how you feel, but you know what? You underestimate the groundswell support you've got. That's part of the reason why we started this project. And the fact that when I mentioned it and Tony mentioned it to people, yeah, I want to be in. It was brilliant. And it also hopefully will raise your profile. And in years to come, we'll be talking about this as a distant memory. It's forged friendships. For example, although I'd known Tony from before, the words road trip are enough to make us sleep in the car and bite potato. You may have heard about my exploits and my addiction to Greenhall's potato cakes. Embarrassing, isn't it?
He buys the entire stock every Wednesday.
The only bloody place you can get them. But there's also the fact that when we come to see you, I mean, obviously, amongst the joking and all the things, remember one time I sat opposite you like a cop and went, well, Mr. Hall, did you see Emmerdale last night? You were dying to go to the toilet, you were laughing your head off. But part of that was because we needed to touch base, we needed to meet, and of course, we'll forget about the personalised bar of chocolate. But those kind of things, you've got a lot of friendship and you've got a lot of support. Ignore the naysayers, and ignore the people who want to pull you down. They're jealous of what you can do.
Absolutely, just jealous. Pure and simple.
So there you are, you see. I've said what I've got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, no. Well, listen, I'm going to knock us off Facebook now. Yeah. So there we go. And I'm going to stop the recording, which is